Keanu Reeves was strolling on a quiet street in a big city after a busy day of filming. He always liked to enjoy casual strolls when he could remain a simple observer of city life. On this sunny day, a small lemonade stand on the side of the road caught his eye. A pregnant woman was standing next to it, offering a cool drink to passersby. Her appearance aroused his interest. Although she looked exhausted, her eyes showed a desperate determination. There were not many customers around. The woman stood quietly by her stall, trying to attract the attention of the rare passersby. Her clothes were simple and her face was slightly tanned, with a tiredness that spoke volumes about the hard days she had been through. It seemed that her burden was greater than one would have guessed at first glance. As Keanu watched this scene, a police patrol car pulled up to the stall. A man in uniform got out of the car. His appearance was stern and his behavior abrupt. The policeman approached the stall and began to say something to the woman, pointing to her simple counter and showing obvious dissatisfaction with her face. Keanu couldn't hear the words, but his intuition told him that the tone of the conversation was not friendly at all. The woman tried to remain calm, though her shoulders tensed slightly. Her movements became more cautious, like someone used to hiding pain. The policeman leaned closer, gesturing with his hand, and at that moment Keanu realized that the situation was beginning to go beyond simple interaction. The policeman seemed to be not only expressing dissatisfaction, but also showing a certain disdain that was evident in his body language. Keanu paused for a moment, thinking about the right thing to do. His heart told him that he could not stand aside. The woman looked too vulnerable in this situation, and her silent struggle for survival needed support. He was in no hurry to intervene, but he could not just watch what was happening. The policeman, meanwhile, pulled out a notebook and started writing something down. His movements were slow and demonstrative, as if he deliberately wanted to show that his authority was unchallenged. The woman continued to stand silently, only occasionally nodding her head, but her eyes showed a mixture of fear and fatigue. She clearly didn't want to get into a conflict, trying to avoid even more trouble. Keanu continued to watch the scene. Thoughts of injustice and how often people find themselves in such difficult circumstances flew through his mind. He didn't know what exactly made this woman sell lemonade in such a state, but he was sure that her story had much deeper roots. A few minutes later, the policeman walked away from the stall, leaving a note on the table. The woman looked at the piece of paper, and her shoulders dropped even more. Her gaze was visibly disappointed, but she made no gesture to indicate that she was going to protest. The policeman, as if satisfied with his actions, slowly returned to his car and drove away. Keanu decided to get closer. He walked a few steps to the stall and looked at the woman who stood silently holding the same note. Her hands were trembling slightly, and traces of tears were visible on her face. She did not look up, trying to hide her condition. Keanu could only guess what exactly had happened, but his heart was aching for this stranger. He looked carefully at the stall. A simple table, a few cans of lemonade, and a handwritten sign. It all looked so humble that Keanu couldn't help but admire her determination. He knew that this stall was a symbol of her struggle, but he didn't realize how important it was to her. Keanu knew he had to do something, but he decided to tread carefully. His goal was to help, but he didn't want to complicate the situation further. He decided to listen to her story first to see how he could help. Although the day started out as a normal walk, he could already feel that this encounter would change his perception of many things. After the police officer drove away, Keanu Reeves decided not to waste any time. He felt that the situation he had witnessed was only the tip of the iceberg. As he watched the pregnant woman who continued to stand by her stall, he felt a mixture of emotions: compassion, anger at the injustice, and a desire to help. He decided to approach her, but with the utmost delicacy, so as not to cause unnecessary tension. As he got closer, he saw that the woman was trying to hide her tears. Her hands were still holding the note the policeman had left. It seemed that every second of her existence was a struggle for survival. Keanu involuntarily wondered, what made her find herself in this situation? Why was she standing here, under the scorching sun, instead of resting and taking care of herself and her unborn child, despite her condition? He stopped a few steps away from the stall, giving the woman some space. Keanu raised his hand to say hello, and his soft gaze said more than any words. She looked up at him, a little surprised by his presence, but seemed to sense something good and trustworthy about him. Her shoulders relaxed a little, and she took a deep breath, as if weighing whether to say anything more than a simple thank you for his purchase. Keanu decided that he needed to know more about her circumstances before acting. He asked permission to sit on a bench nearby to create a comfortable distance that would make the woman feel more at ease. His presence was not intrusive. He exuded friendliness and patience. Eventually, the woman decided to open up a bit. She began to speak in fragments, trying to keep herself in control, although her voice sometimes broke. She explained that her situation had become critical due to the unexpected loss of her husband, who was the sole breadwinner in the family. After his death, all the financial problems fell on her. Her pregnancy made it difficult to find a job, and her medical expenses were increasing every day. The only way out for her was to set up this small stall to earn some money for food and medicine. Her voice was shaking as she spoke, but she kept talking. Every word she said made Keanu feel more and more sympathetic. He realized that this woman was not just fighting for herself. She was fighting for the life of her unborn child. Her determination and strength of spirit amazed him. He realized that this story is just one of many that remain invisible to society but require attention and help. After the woman finished her story, Keanu decided to act. He knew that simple financial assistance would not be enough. She needed not only temporary support, but also stability that would allow her and her child to start a new life. He started with a simple thing. He ordered a few glasses of lemonade from her, paying much more than it was worth. But that was only the first step. Keanu quickly contacted his team to organize more help. He decided to cover all of her medical expenses, provide her with temporary housing, and find her long-term support. He also offered to organize consultations with lawyers to address any legal issues that might complicate her situation. While these measures were being implemented, Keanu also worked to raise awareness of her situation in the community. He realized that one person's help was important, but when the community gets involved, the impact is much greater. He gathered local residents to tell them about her struggle, and many of them decided to support her by buying lemonade, offering their services, or simply providing moral support. Over the following weeks, the woman's life began to change. Thanks to the efforts of Keanu and the community, she was able to access the medical care she needed to ensure a safe pregnancy. Her lemonade stand became not only a source of income, but also a symbol of hope for many others in similar circumstances. Keanu did not leave her alone even after the first difficulties were overcome. He continued to visit her, monitor her progress, and provide support whenever she needed it. His actions set an example for many people who saw how even a little help can change lives. This story was another reminder for Keanu of how important it is to remain human and not be afraid to intervene when you see injustice. He knew that this meeting would change not only her life, but also his own, because every act of kindness leaves a mark on the heart of the person who helps. After the first steps Keanu took to help a pregnant woman, his efforts began to yield even greater results. What initially seemed like simple help grew into a real movement that united the local community. A woman who had previously been almost invisible to society has now become a symbol of hope and an example of how joint action can change lives. When Keanu provided the woman with access to medical care, her condition improved significantly. She received not only the treatment she needed, but also the confidence that she would no longer be alone in her fight. But Keanu didn't stop there. He saw that her story touched many people and decided to use this moment to create long-term support. Keanu started organizing meetings with local people to discuss how they could support those in difficult circumstances. He gathered volunteers to help develop initiatives to support not only the woman, but others in similar situations. These meetings quickly turned into something more. They became a platform for discussing community problems and finding ways to solve them. One of the first ideas that emerged from these meetings was to create a fund to help single mothers and pregnant women facing financial difficulties. Keanu made a generous initial contribution, but encouraged others to join in, even if their contribution was symbolic. His words inspired many, and soon the foundation began receiving donations from people from all over the city. The lemonade stand became a symbol of the movement. Local entrepreneurs helped to improve it. They donated a new counter, materials for advertising, and equipment for making drinks. The stall turned into more than just a place to sell lemonade. It became a meeting place for people who wanted to help. The woman who was initially shy about attracting attention to herself now felt support from all sides. She was grateful to receive help, but at the same time, she wanted to make her own contribution. She began organizing free classes for other women, teaching them how to start their own businesses, even in the most difficult circumstances. Her experience inspired others, and many began to follow suit. Thanks to the popularity of Keanu Reeves, the story began to gain momentum and spread beyond the local community. Journalists learned about his involvement and began writing articles, and social media was flooded with posts telling the story. People from different countries expressed their admiration and desire to help. Many sent donations, and some even came to the city to take part in the events in person. One of these events became a real celebration. A charity fair was organized on the main square of the city, where not only lemonade was sold, but also other goods made by local residents. All the money raised during the fair went to the support fund. Keanu also participated. He talked to people, made donations, and even held an autograph session for fans. Over time, the initiatives launched by Keanu began to expand. The foundation, created to support single mothers, began working with local schools, hospitals, and businesses. It not only provided financial assistance, but also created opportunities for training, employment, and medical support. In addition, Keanu initiated a mentoring program for young people in difficult circumstances. Volunteers from various professions began to conduct workshops, helping young people find their way in life. This gave many of them a chance to escape poverty and start a new chapter. The story of the pregnant woman became a catalyst for change, not only at the local level, but also for many other communities. People began to realize how important small acts of kindness can be and how they can change lives. Communities around the world, inspired by Keanu's example, began to create similar initiatives to support those in need. The pregnant woman who once stood by her simple lemonade stand has now become a true symbol of strength of spirit and faith in a better future. Her life changed thanks to the support of one person who decided not to stand aside. But this story also changed Keanu himself. He realized that even the smallest gesture of kindness can have an incredible impact if it is supported and developed. When he returned to this place a few months later, everything was different. The lemonade stand was now part of a larger initiative that helped dozens of people. But what struck him the most was the atmosphere. The place was no longer full of despair. Joy, unity, and hope reigned here. And that was the best reward for Keanu. After Keanu Reeves' initiatives gained local and international recognition, his efforts began to transform into larger projects. Now, his work went beyond helping one woman or community to impacting the broader social context. Every step he took helped create new opportunities for people in difficult life circumstances. Keanu realized that the success of his previous projects was the result of the combined efforts of many people. This inspired him to create a platform that would facilitate collective collaboration on a global scale. He founded an organization called the Kindness Initiative, which aimed to bring together people from different parts of the world to solve social and economic problems together. The platform offered tools for raising funds, finding volunteers, and organizing local events. It also had an educational section where people could learn about successful examples of social projects, receive training in managing charitable initiatives, or find mentors to develop their ideas. One of the organization's first global projects was a support program for single mothers. It was based on the experience gained while helping a pregnant woman with a lemonade stand. The program provided access to free consultations with psychologists, lawyers, and financial experts, as well as help in finding housing and employment. In many countries, support centers were set up where women could get the help they needed and find new friends in similar situations. In one of these centers, located in a small town in Eastern Europe, a story happened that once again confirmed the correctness of the chosen direction. A young woman named Anna, who had lost her home to the war, was able to find shelter at the center. She not only received help, but also became an active participant in the project, helping other women adapt to the new conditions. Anna also organized handicrafts courses, teaching many women how to create products that they could sell and earn a steady income. Realizing that the future of the world depends on the younger generation, Keanu focused on creating programs that helped young people develop their talents and realize their dreams. He initiated a global scholarship program that supported young entrepreneurs, artists, scientists, and activists. One of these young people, a 19-year-old from South America named Juan, was able to launch his own startup thanks to the scholarship. His idea was to create an app for teaching children from low-income families. The app offered interactive lessons in math, languages, science, and other subjects. Thanks to the support of Keanu and his organization, Juan not only realized his project, but also attracted international investors who helped him expand it to several countries. In addition to supporting people, Keanu has also focused on environmental issues. He launched a project to clean up the oceans from plastic, involving young people in the process. The project was called Ocean Rebirth. As part of the initiative, large coastal cleanups were organized and educational programs were created for school children to teach them the importance of preserving the environment. Keanu once personally joined an action on a beach in Southeast Asia. His presence not only attracted media attention, but also inspired hundreds of volunteers who joined the event. This initiative is an example of how fame can be used for good. Another major project of Keanu's was the opening of a cultural center that combined art, science, and innovation. The center became a place where young artists could present their work, scientists could give lectures, and entrepreneurs could discuss their ideas. One of the main goals of the center was to bring together people from different cultures and countries to create joint projects. The opening of the center was a real event. People from all over the world came to see what the place looked like, which promised to become a center of innovation and cooperation. On the very first day, several exhibitions were presented there, drawing attention to social issues, and a series of lectures were held on the importance of cultural exchange. Each of Keanu's projects had one thing in common. He not only solved a specific problem, but also inspired others to take action. Thanks to his efforts, thousands of people around the world began to create their own initiatives that changed their communities for the better. He has become a symbol of kindness that has no boundaries and requires nothing in return. At the end of another busy day, Keanu found himself back in the place where it all began, at the same lemonade stand. The woman he had helped was now a happy mother, and her small business had turned into a family affair that inspired others. She thanked him, but Keanu just smiled, saying that all this was possible thanks to her own strength of mind. His life has become an example of how one person can change the world if they are not afraid to act. And this story was just beginning. Keanu Reeves realized that his projects and initiatives had become something more than he could have imagined at the beginning. The efforts he had made to help one woman had grown into a global movement that was changing the lives of millions of people around the world. With each new project and each success story, he saw how the power of compassion and collective action can create amazing change. One of Keanu's most ambitious steps was the creation of the Global Kindness Network, an international foundation. This foundation brings together a variety of initiatives aimed at supporting people in difficult life circumstances, protecting the environment, and promoting education. The foundation became a central hub for coordinating projects that operated in dozens of countries. The foundation's mission was not only to provide financial support, but also to create educational and motivational programs. People could share their ideas, find partners, and even receive grants to implement their initiatives. The foundation's successes quickly became visible. In less than a year, its activities allowed it to create new schools in Africa, support animal shelters in Asia, and provide medical care for thousands of people in Latin America. Keanu decided that a key part of his work would be personal communication with the people who received support. He traveled to different countries to meet with people who had participated in his programs. These meetings inspired him and gave him new ideas for future projects. On one such trip, he visited a village in India where the foundation helped open a school for girls. Before that, girls in the region were rarely given the opportunity to get an education. Now, they not only learn, but also gain skills that allow them to be independent. One of the students, 12-year-old Aruna, shared her dream of becoming an engineer with Keanu, and her determination and inspiration will always be remembered by him. One of the new areas of the Foundation's activities was the introduction of technology to solve social problems. Keanu brought in a team of IT professionals to develop a mobile application that allowed users to find volunteer projects in their area, make donations, and monitor the progress of various initiatives. The app quickly became popular and helped thousands of people find a way to get involved in making a difference. The foundation also supported startups that developed environmentally friendly technologies. One of these projects created a water purification system that could be used even in the most remote parts of the world. As a result, millions of people have gained access to clean drinking water. Keanu has always felt responsible for the planet, and therefore a significant part of his projects was aimed at protecting the environment. In addition to the ocean cleanup program, he launched a global reforestation initiative. With the foundation's support, millions of trees were planted in regions affected by deforestation. One of the largest tree planting campaigns took place in South America. It was joined by thousands of volunteers, including local residents, school children, and even tourists. Keanu personally took part in this campaign, inspiring others by his example. This project not only helped restore the ecosystem, but also created new jobs for local communities. Another important area of Keanu's work was the preservation of cultural heritage. The foundation funded projects that helped preserve indigenous languages, art, and traditions. In collaboration with museums and cultural organizations, he helped create exhibitions and programs that showcased the richness of the world's cultural diversity. One such project, dedicated to the preservation of Maori folklore in New Zealand, produced a documentary film that told the story of their traditions, music, and lifestyle. The film not only drew attention to the problem, but also helped to attract resources to support local communities. Each of Keanu's projects was accompanied by success stories of people who receive help. These stories have become a source of inspiration for millions. People from all over the world began to create their own initiatives, inspired by his example. Thousands of posts with hashtags dedicated to his foundation and its activities appeared on social media. After many years of activism, Keanu remained humble and committed to his principles. He was not looking for fame or recognition. He just wanted to make the world a better place. One evening, sitting in his favorite park, he reflected on how far this path had taken him. He realized that it all started with a small lemonade stand and a desire to help one person. This moment became another reminder for him of how even the smallest act of kindness can have incredible consequences. Keanu knew that there was still a lot of work to be done, but he was ready to keep going. After all, every smile, every life saved, and every life changed was worth every second of his efforts. His story has become a symbol that each of us can be a source of change. And although he often said that he was not a hero, for millions of people, Keanu Reeves remained the personification of humanity, compassion, and the power to change the world for the better.